this is really fascinating to get out here and actually do this and see it.
To see what it would have been like for them.
Yeah, where they're... Now, I understood that a lot of times an escaped slave would try to follow the water if they could.
Right.
And that's where I think you were saying Lick Creek is also. That's where Cedar Creek really gets.
Yes, and there again, we're about 5 miles or so south of where Cedar Creek is.
Right.
So, and there in my neighborhood, it was the little Friends Church was only like 6 miles from Salem. So that would say that they probably came up Cedar Creek, because that was...
This is Little Lick Creek.
Yes. Huh. And I understand there is Little Lick and there is Big Lick.
Big Lick, Little Lick.
So as we come up around here, you're going to see a farmhouse here on the north side of the road. And that is the original stagecoach stop for
this area.
Yes, yes. And so there's a little cemetery, Fordyce Cemetery is actually right in here too.
Now, is this where Fordyce Tavern is?
Yes, this is Fordyce Tavern.
So where did it get the name Tavern? I mean...
because there were so many people coming through and needed a place to stop and regenerate.
Have a drink or
but
relax a little.
It was like...
tough fella. Now we're here at the Fordyce Tavern. They called it the Fordyce Tavern?
Inn.
The Fordyce Inn?
I think that's what. Maybe tavern. Some people said tavern and some.
Well, it originally was considered to be the inn.
Bell of Invincibility, that's for sure.
I don't know what kind of paperwork you have.
That's fabulous. Well,
you have the one.
This is now we're in Stockport or Birmingham, actually.
Stockport.
And this is a stop on the Underground Railroad. From everything we can tell, we're here investigating it and trying to find out what the story is. And Linda and Dorothy are here to kind of give us the scoop about what's happened in this place and what we know at least has happened back in around the 1830s, 1840s, 1850s, that time period. Do we know that this was a stop in the Underground Railroad, or we think that it was, and what do we know about it?
The write-up is, legend has it, I think that's usually in the write-up, the way they phrase it. What I know, they just said it was on the Underground Railroad, but that would have been probably between 1840 and 1900, I would assume.
Yeah, 1840 to 1860.
Yeah.
Once the Emancipation Proclamation happens in 63, then they don't need it as much. So, well, this is an interesting part of town, because we know that Salem, which is only about 15 miles to the east of here, was a place that Quakers in that town had helped people get through, and we know that Fairfield is a place that escaped slaves came through. So we know they came through Salem, and they had to come someplace on the way. And the word that I've understood is one of those places is Birmingham and Fordyce. I heard it called Fordyce Tavern at one time. Of course, everything was probably a tavern, because if you couldn't have a glass of whiskey at that time, you probably couldn't get back out in the cold again. That's right. For sure.
I would assume. Well, this was the only road at the time, came from Winchester.
Yes.
So on that went right up to Hillsborough. It's just a straight shot.
And that's the other thing, is some of these came this way and went to Salem.
Right.
So that's it. One of the things we're finding is this was a very complex network. It wasn't one direction railroad one way or the. It was a web. And if the sheriffs were getting a little touchy here, or more slave owners were bringing people up here to watch, well, then they'd send them through this way and up. If this instead they went this direction, well, then they said, don't go there, come right to Salem, and we'll take you over to the Mississippi and up to Canada. So interesting how it worked. Before computers, they still had a network of people that kind of knew what the skinny was and where to go and where not to go.
Yeah.